Hello, my name is Don Townsend.
And my name is Tom Buck.
And this is the Plus One podcast. And our Plus One today is Jason Bay.
Jason has over 20 years of experience in Ibiza, DJing at the likes of Cafe Mambo and Space. We're sure you're going to like this episode because you've got plenty of brilliant stories.
Enjoy.
So, Jace, let's kick things off. And we'd like to find out a little bit about yourself, or give yourself a brief introduction first. Let us know about where you are and what you do.
Well, my name's Jason Bay. I'm the resident DJ at Cafe Mambo, amongst various other places. I live in Ibiza. I'm here right now. The sun's not shining today, which is a shame, but you know, it's a lovely place to be in the winter, and not much different from lockdown from any other winter, really. It's just that the bars ain't open. But yeah, I've been living over here on and off, you know, best part of 26 years. And yeah, and I've been DJing for that same time. And yeah, I've got myself a record label called Playmore Terry's and a merchandise site where I sell all the stuff and basically just keep myself busy with music and DJing and making T-shirts and that's it, really.
What first took you over there, Jace, to Ibiza?
I came on a Club 18 to 30 holiday in 1992, and the funny thing is, John Ulysses was my rep, which is ridiculous, really.
Small world.
And he wasn't DJing then, I wasn't DJing then, and we became friends.
How old were you then, Jace?
And then I don't know, what's that, 92, so I would have been 20. And then I came back to London after, you know, I went to Ibiza in 1992 twice. And I came back to London and, you know, and I just had the bug for it. And I just thought, you know, next season I'm going to go over and I'm going to work. I'm just going to try and do anything I could put my hands to, really. And then, so I came to Ibiza with a couple of mates in 93. And we lived in San Antonio. Well, I basically, like, we stayed in the Mitchell, you know, Big Fat Tony.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any money, and my mates had a bit of money, so they rented a room. And then I used to just sleep on the sun lounger. Used to bring it in from the balcony and just sleep in the room there. And then Tony was like, no. He goes, I found a room for you. It's only 500 pesetas a night. It was like £2. And he was like, and he took me to this room, and it was more like a cupboard, and it didn't have a door on it. And there was a hose for a shower. And so I stayed there for a while until because I couldn't get a job. We got here so early in the season, I just couldn't get a job anywhere. So my mate Steve ended up getting a job at Buccaneros in the Bay. Yeah. And so he used to PR at the front, getting people in, and it's like really good bar, really busy. And so I used to pop in as I was walking around, because every night you used to just go out and go to every single bar and just say any jobs, and you know, they say like, come back tomorrow. And so like I used to pop into Buccaneros to see my mate Steve, and he'd get me a drink and that. And that's where I met Javi, who owns Mambo, because that was his first bar, Buccaneros. Mm-hmm. And then so he got me drawing all the posters for all the special drinks, you know, like Coca Loco, 500 pesetas a glass and stuff like that. So I used to draw all the posters, put all over the bar and that, you know, pool competitions and stuff. And he said, well, why don't you help your mate Steve PR out the front? So me and my mate Steve, I mean, we're such good mates anyway that we used to just bounce off each other with banter and stuff. And we got the place absolutely ramo in there.
Yeah. And
so he got so busy, he said to me, well, why don't you come in and work behind the bar? And the funny thing was the decks in there were behind the bar as well. And so Manolo, who was the manager there, he would serve drinks and he would change the record in between serving drinks. He was really quick. And then one night, it's all kicked off in there and it's going mental. And Manolo's pulled the baseball bat from above the bar and jumped into the crowd to stop it all and that. And he shouted over to me, change the record, because it was running out while he was in the middle of a ruck. So I went over to the mixer and I seen him doing it before, and I thought, well, what do I do here then? And I can't remember what record it was. It was probably like Mariah Carey, Dream Lover, or like Show Me Love by Robin S or something like that. And I quickly did the mix. And I remember him turning around while he was still fighting, going, bien, bien, like that. And then, so that one moment, I was like, I loved it. So then Javi used to say to me, like, towards the end of the season when the football started again, he'd say, can you come in the afternoon? Here's the keys. You open up, show the football, and then Manolo will come down and he'll take over. And I was like, yeah, all right. So, but I used to go in like a couple of hours earlier. And I used to just mess about with Manolo's records in there and just make a couple of tapes and stuff. But the thing is, every time I finished playing, I would have to put every single record back in exactly the same spot where it was left and all that. Because if he came in and knew I was touching his records, he used to go off at me, don't touch my records, blah, blah, blah. And then, so at the end of 93, I went back to London.
So, Jay, sorry, when you went over there, you had no intention of being a DJ? No
way. No.
Right.
I mean, I always loved my music. I mean, I had a really good record collection anyway, because that was the only way you could buy music back then, or it was either like a mixtape or some of the records I used to go clubbing and listening to, you couldn't go and get a mixtape from Woolworths with all them tracks on it. You had to go, to the local record shop and get them on vinyl. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't all house. It was like a lot of James Brown and Happy Mondays and stuff like that. So it just built up my collection. So I went back to England. I just pulled it all out, and I got a couple of Technics and a mixer on layaway, like on tick. Yeah. I still don't think I've paid for them. and then I used to just practice every single day. Like I was delivering Chicago ribs at the time for all the pubs around London for this company. And I used to have that van where it said Joe Smokes Ribs on the side of it. And that van was outside the record shop all the time. And the amount of parking tickets it got. And like, I never paid them either. The company paid them, and they used to give me petrol money. And then I used to like put 15 quid in the tank and then use the other 15 quid to get another cut of 12 inches or something. Yeah. And then I just played. And then I came back to Ibiza in 94 on holiday about 4 times. And I just said to Javi, I said, look, I'm a DJ now and all that. And he was like, yeah, whatever, come on and all that. And I said, yeah, I am. He says, all right, well, he goes, I've just opened this bar called Cafe Mambo. Do you want to come round and play in there? I was like, he said, Sasha's in there, Brandon's in there, Alex is in there. And I was like, yeah, come on then. And like, he'd never even said anything to me about this before. So he said, get your records. And we jumped in the car and we got to Mambo. I went in there and this must have been like August 94. And Alex and Brandon were playing and they were absolutely trolleyed. Yeah. I was surprised they could even stand up. And
that's Brandon Block, isn't it?
Yeah, Brandon Block. Yeah, Alex P. Yeah, and I played and it went really well. And then he said to me, he's like, Jason, you have talent. He says, come back next year and you could be the resident. And I was like, so I took it as gospel, So like, I came back to England and I just got more records and I did as much practicing as I could. And I used to play in a wine bar down the road called Scallywags. And it was funny because I used to play in Scallywags on a Friday night and EZ used to play in there on a Saturday night. but we never ever met. And so it wasn't till years later when he played at Space, I was like, Scallywags. And he was like, yeah, man. It was like, and it was just really weird. And then, so then I went back to Ibiza in 95 to stay. And I took my dog with me and Javi found us somewhere to live. And then went down to Mambo and he said, look, we're not opening for another 6 weeks. So you might as well help with the painting and putting the sand on the beach and, and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I spent a good 6 weeks painting the place and, fixing stuff. I got my trade as a bricklayer anyway. I did my city and guilds with that. And so I could put my hand to a few bits and that. And then, just before we opened, there was a couple of trucks full of sand came up and we had to shovel all the sand on the rocks because it wasn't like a natural beach down there.
Yeah. And anyone who knows Cafe Mambo like it is now, it was a lot different years back, wasn't it? When it was just literally the sand and...
Well, yeah, it was just, you couldn't walk from you know, where the fountains are in San Antonio, where all the boats are, all the way around to Mambo. You had to cut through and come down a little road, and you know there would be Cafe Del Mar on the left, and there would be Mambo on the right, and then yeah. So yeah, in '95 I was basically playing from 2:00 in the afternoon till 2:00 in the morning, and then anybody would come in, you know, like Jeremy Healy would come in, and Alex and Brandon, of course, and then Norris the Boss, Windross, and all DJs like that would come in. And we never really had any pre-parties then, except for the only pre-party was Clockwork Orange on a Wednesday. And I think there was another one, a Pasha one on Sunday called Love It. And yeah, and so, you know, I used to get to play like all the time. And then the guys from Manumission came in and they was like, oh, we really like what you're playing and that. Do you want to come and play up at Coup? And I was like, yeah. And they said, well, first of all, we're doing a party in Esparadis on a Saturday night for Classic House. Do you want to start off doing that? So I went and played Esparadis and it went off and it was really good. And then I went back I was like a couple of days later or whatever, Rafa Bertrand, who worked for Amnesia at the time, he came into Mambo and he says, oh, we want you to come and play at Amnesia. And I was like, blimey, what's going on here? It was like happening really, really quickly. Yeah. It was like, you know, it was just like, you know, like when you're on a wave of something, it was just happening like that.
Just all kinds of snowball for you.
Yeah, so I said, what night do you want me to play? He says, oh, we want you to do the Espuma nights up there, the phone parties in Amnesia. So back then, this was before Cream was at Amnesia. So phone parties used to be on a Thursday and a Sunday. So I remember I got on my moped on a Thursday night after I finished Mambo at 2:00 in the morning. And I got on my moped, bag of records on my back. And I got up there. And I mean, there's people everywhere, and I'm trying to get to the door, trying to explain who I am. I mean, you know, it's like, I went to Amnesia for the first time ever in '93 with Javi, and it was like, you know, I just looked at it and I thought, wow, you know, it's the best club in the world. So then, so I'm going to the door, and there's like a big, like Tony Roach was on the door, and I explained who I was. I don't know how I got through the crowd, and then they took me in, took me up to the DJ box, and went, right, you're going on now. And I just stood there and I didn't know what to play or anything. Yeah. So I was like, I really can't remember what I played. And then,
were you nervous, Jay, doing that?
I don't know. I think it was almost like, you know, you either do this or you don't. And if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, I just like, look, they've asked you to come and do it. They obviously think you're good, and you just got to believe that you're good because you're there. And then, and I got the impression that it didn't work very well. And then they paid me, and then they came back to Mambo and they said, can you do it every week? And I was like, yeah, all right. And they said, can you do Thursdays and Sundays? And I was like, yeah, cool. But I thought, I said to them, look, but I've got to bring someone with me to play. And they were, yeah, no problem. And I had a really good relationship with Stuart B, who used to be the resident at Star Club before it was Chaos. And then now, obviously, it's Eden. And when I was learning and playing and stuff in the early, like in '94, he used to let me play in there with him. And so I said to him, Stu, I said, I don't know what to do, man. I said, I'm up there. I said, I was dropping Richie Rich Salsa House. And I said, they haven't got a clue what it is. And he said, well, it's because it's full of Italians, he said. He says, there's no English up there. He says, you've got to bang it. I said, all right. Then I said, you come and play with me. And he was like, yeah. So I went straight up there. And we banged the life out of it, and the gaff went crazy. We really did. You know, it was like anything that was like, you know, like proper, like 133 beats per minute, just banging away. And they said, oh yeah, we said that. They said, your mate. They said he can play with you as well. We'll pay him as well. So then we started doing that, and then we started putting a couple of our own parties on there, and then. At the end of that, so then I went on to play at Manumission as well. And then, and so I was doing Manumission and Amnesia and Esparadis and Mambo.
Sorry, Jay, just for anyone who doesn't know what Manumission was, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, well Manumission was a party that started in '94 in Coup nightclub, which is now called Privilege. And basically they used to get 10,000 people a week over 2 arenas. And they had a sex show going on, and they just had just crazy stuff going on all the time.
And this was like a world first, was it, for any?
Yeah,
any
it was. Yeah,
country
but it was the first time. I mean, you had like the Brazil parties and stuff, but for have something that was like this, it was literally a festival, you know, and to have that like once a week was unreal, you know. I mean, you're used to getting like, you know, like big DJs coming over regularly, but it was just an onslaught of big time DJs constantly just being there and playing Manumission, like Danny Rampling and, you know, Smoking Joe and yeah, just and it was a lot of Ireland locals. Like Griff was the resident DJ there, and so the end of '95 came, and there was a promotion in Leeds at the music factory called Love to Be, and they really liked what I did, and they said, do you want to be our resident DJ in Leeds for the winter before you go back to Ibiza for the summer? And I was like, yeah. They said you play every Saturday night. It was like 100 quid, something like that, and your petrol money. And I was living in Leeds at the time anyway. And so I did that. Actually, the club was in Sheffield and I was living in Leeds, that's it. And then, so I did Love to Be all winter. I played the Hacienda on New Year's Eve with Todd Terry and Graham Park. And then I get a phone call from the owner of Amnesia, Martin. And he says, I need to speak with you and all that. He says, I'm going to get one of my managers to call you. So I said, okay. So they called me and they said, we want you to help us get Cream into Amnesia. And I said, well, I said, I know Darren Hughes, who was part owner of Cream with James Barton at the time.
Yeah.
But it was really difficult to speak to Darren because he was like, you know, I'd be like, Darren, you know, want you to come Amnesia and all that, because they was like, no, we're going to be in, we're going to go to Privilege. And I was like, and then, you know, and then he wouldn't say anything else. So then I said, okay. I said to the guy at Amnesia, I said, look, I'll give it one more go. And then so I think I spoke to Darren, or I spoke to Amanda Eastwood, who was working there, and then didn't hear nothing of it. And then Amnesia called me up again, and then they said to us, we've got Cream. And I was like, oh, right. And he said, yeah, we just, I can't really remember how they did it, but he said they flew over and went to the club and literally talked him into doing it. And he says, and also he goes, we want you to be the Amnesia resident. They said, we want you in the club 7 days a week.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? It was like a phone call from, unbelievable. I mean, I'd only been DJing a year and a half.
Yeah, and at this time, were you still doing Mambo as well of a day?
Yeah. So what I was doing, so the following year, I flew over to Ibiza, got somewhere to live. And then the owner of Amnesia, Martin, he said, come to Barcelona for a couple of months before the summer starts, because Amnesia only opened for 11 weeks in the old days. Oh, right. So, you know, it'd be like, it'd open mid-June and close like mid-September.
Okay, so the season was not as long as they are now.
Yeah, other clubs stayed open, but they only stayed open for 11 weeks. I mean, and they own clubs in Barcelona and Stitches and in Sitges and stuff like that. So, I mean, they were busy all the time. So they said, come over to Barcelona. And so I went over to Barcelona and they put me up in this lovely house and they said, and I had my dog with me as well. And they were like, you know, go to, they had an elite modelling agency up in the hills in St. Gervasi. And so the bar up there was unbelievable, and the view. And like, so I'm standing there, you know, and you got like, yeah, unbelievable models around and all that. And then I turn around and I'm like, blimey, that's Stoichkov, you know, Barcelona player. Then I'm like, oh, look, it's Figo. You know what I mean? I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then it was like, and then like, so I played the clubs in Barcelona and I used to just eat in their restaurants for free and stuff. And then we came back to Ibiza and opened up Amnesia. And I was doing 2:00 in the afternoon at Mambo till I think like 10 o'clock at night. And then I would get on my moped and go to Amnesia, start there at midnight. And then I'd probably get home about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and back up at 1:30 to go straight to Mambo.
Wow.
Anyway, that only lasted about 6 weeks because I had a little bit of a fallout with Avi. And And I was just so tired, and I could see where he was coming from as well, because, you know, like trying to do 2 jobs at the same time, that many hours, and you
Catch
know,
up on you.
it's just too much. Yeah, and then so I just went and I just stayed in Amnesia, and I played there every night for the next 3 months. You know, played with some amazing DJs and you know, and I was when Cream was every Thursday, and I used to play the terrace for them. I used to close the terrace, and I used to go from like, I'd get on at about 6 a.m. and it'd easily go to like 9:30, 10 o'clock every Thursday.
Wow.
So did you find that on the different nights you had to kind of adapt your music style depending on what the night was, or were you all quite similar?
Yeah, it was, well, because Cream was on a Thursday, and we had to open the club earlier for Cream, because, you know, everyone, you know, it's like anybody from London goes to a club late, don't they? When you go up north, everyone's there, aren't they? 10 o'clock when it opens, and so because Cream was more of a northern thing, obviously, we'd have queues around the bloody bend, you know, like an hour and a half before the club opened. So we opened up earlier for them, and so I used to like do the first couple of hours, you know, and then like Norman J would come on, then Murillo, and then Paul Van Dyke would finish off, and you'd have all that different kind of music in one night in the same room, you know.
Yeah.
And then you know, then Tenaglia, Junior Sanchez, you know, the list just goes on and on and on. It was like Roger Sanchez, and then, you know, then Van Elden turned up, and, you know, I'm in the DJ box with him, talking to him, and it's just like, it's just unreal.
Yeah.
And you know, and he was just a kid then as well, you know. He'd only just done Professional Widow and Sugar Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, you know, it was just unbelievable. And then so that carried on for 3 years. I did the Amnesia full-time resident, 96, 97 and 98. I'd still do my stuff at Mambo as well, because me and Avi, we weren't angry at each other for very long. We sorted it out.
Yeah.
And he said, and yeah, so I've kept a really good relationship with him and carried on playing with him, and the same with Amnesia. But then at the end of 98, Darren Hughes called me at the end of the season after the Cream closing party, and he said, we've just invested in a nightclub. He said, me, Paul Oakenfold, and I can't remember the other guy's name. I ain't seen him for so long. Ron McCulloch, who owned one of the clubs in Glasgow. And he said, we've just bought a club in Sydney, in Darling Harbour. He said, we're going to call it Home. And he said, I've been speaking to Mark Broadbent and Sarah Broadbent, who were running Cream in Ibiza at the time. Mm-hmm. And he said, they're going to come over and run the club. And he said, Mark, I said to me, he said, he'll only do it if you're going to be the resident DJ. So I was like blown away. And this was like sort of late October 1998. And so I said, well, when do you want me to go? He says, well, I want you to do New Year's Eve at Alexandra Palace with Sasha, and on a live link to Leeds with Jeremy Ely and Judge Jules and whatever. And I was like, all right. And then he says, then you've got a week to prepare yourself. And he says, then you're going to fly over to Sydney, and then you're going to be doing 6 hours every Saturday night in a club with a sound system designed by Steve Dash, who did the Sound Factory in New York. And I was just, blimey, this is just getting ridiculous. It's just like it's like, you know, then I did Alexandra Palace, and then got on a plane with Mark and Sarah Broadbent. We flew to Australia. I mean, I'd never been there before. I mean, I'd never been on a flight more than 3 hours before. Yeah. Got absolutely sloshed on the plane. I always remember I had like, I think I took like £2,000 in cash from me, and I had it in this brown envelope, and I had it stuffed down my trousers. And I was so drunk when I was on the plane that I'd gone to the toilet and left it in there. So I'm sitting there like that, just like the woman's coming up. She's going, we have some more vodka and that. She's like, you ain't having any more and all that. And I've gone like, oh crap, like that. So I've gone up and I'm standing, and there's someone in there like that. And I'm like trying to tap on the door like that. Come on, like that. And then they came out and I just piled straight in there. It was still sitting there and I was like, oh, blimey. So then, you know what I mean? All my money.
Yeah, your life savings.
Anyway, so we got to Sydney and then they're before I went, they explained to me that the club was going to be a very vocal house and garagey, experience, like that. And so I bought a lot of tunes down there with me like that. And so I did the first night there. Like the club was absolutely amazing, the home nightclub. It's one of the best clubs I've ever seen. And it was so modern and stuff. I mean, it had unisex toilets in there and that, which I'd never been in. Just
going back, Jay, how would you prepare for that trip if like nowadays, obviously, a DJ's just got to carry his headphones and USB? How do you know what records to take with you?
Well, that was the thing. I think I definitely took 2 flight cases, which would have probably had 100 12s in each. And then maybe a plastic fantastic rucksack, them ones we used to get like 70 in them. And obviously I had all my classics in there. And then I had, all my, because at that time in Amnesia, I was playing it, I wouldn't say trancey, but it was Grease 2000, Cafe Del Mar, tracks like that, massive tracks. Yeah. And so I took them with me anyway. And then so like for the first night, I did like play for 6 hours, just all like so not like uplifting, going mental stuff, but just like cool stuff. And I thought, this ain't working and all that. So I said to Mark, I said, look, let me do what I do in Amnesia. And I said, you watch it changing here. And so the following week, I remember I put Grease 2000 on and when it's starting to kick in, you could see the atmosphere change completely in the club. And then I said, see, like this. And he went, yeah, play what you want. He went, play what you want. So then, they played Cafe Del Mar, and then sort of like the gaff went off. And then the following week, we turned up and the queue was round Darling Harbour. I mean, it went on for miles, it looked like. I mean, I thought there's no way they're going to get all these people in there. And then, so instead of just doing 6 hours, because I started at 11, it was like you go 11 till 5. Like 7 o'clock, I'm still banging it out, right? I haven't played one record twice. I've just smashed it all night long. Like cameras ready, prepare to flash, the all stuff like that. And the lighting in there was incredible. And I was like getting so above myself and all that. I remember getting on the decks and jumping in the crowd and cutting my hands up on the glass on the floor. And then it just exploded. And then that club, I mean, you just couldn't get in there unless you was a member. It was that good. And then so I did that, and then like that was like from like the first week of January, and then come May time I flew back to Ibiza, and instead of going to Amnesia, I went to Space, and that's when We Love started. But it was called Home at Space then, and so it was like me, Steve Lawler, and I can't remember. It was me, Steve Lauder were the main residents. And I'm just looking at, I've got a poster up there, I don't know who else. Yeah, Alfredo and stuff like that.
So for anyone who never went to Space, Jay, how would you describe that?
Well, the thing is, Space is, it's hedonistic. It's just incredible because it started off just as a club without an outside area. Well, it did have an outside area, but it was just like a croissant cafe. So Space was renowned for like being hard techno music. And you would go there at 6 o'clock in the morning after all the other clubs have closed or about to close. And the majority of the people who would be in there on a morning would be all the bar staff and all the doormen from all the other clubs. Yeah. Because, when you finish your gig or your set or, you finish working at the club and you don't go straight home and go to bed. You want to go for a drink and then go home. And so that's what it used to be. It used to be really busy with like a lot of familiar people. And it would go on till maybe midday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock. But then Alex P and Brandon Block were in there all the time because they never slept. And Alex suggested that they bring the 1210s, the turntables out to the terrace and, just play some music for while people, you know, come out, because they come out the club into the terrace bit, and, you know, you go from the complete darkness to, you know, like the bright sunshine.
Yeah.
And people, you know, like off chops were just sitting out there trying to get their world together. And then all of a sudden, Alex P jumps up and starts playing some music. And then it just got busier and busier and busier. And in the end, they had to build a wall around it, and, you know, so you could keep people in. And then it became, you know, its own entity, really. You know, people still went inside. Yeah. But, you know, as soon as that terrace opened at 8 o'clock in the morning, everyone would flood out to that terrace.
I didn't know that's how it started outside.
Alex. Yeah. It was Alex, yeah. Alex Petridis, Alex P. And so then Alex and Brandon would play every Sunday. And that's why Sunday, you know, just got the reputation it did. And then over the years, you know, a lot more people wanted to play there, and people, it was like what DC10 was in the early days, you know, just everyone wanted to play there, you know. All the big DJs, they didn't care, you know, whether they get paid or not, they just wanted to play there because the atmosphere was that electric. And then so I'd never played there because I was in Amnesia. It wasn't really the dumb thing that I would play in Amnesia and the resident would then go and play in Space, you know. I mean, it wouldn't matter now, but back then it was a bit different. And so Darren said to me, he said, so he says, you and Lawler are the resident DJs for the summer, and, you know, and we're going to have Coxie, we're going to have Oakenfold, we're going to have, you know, Roger Sanchez, we're going to have Sneak, you know, just every DJ you could imagine.
At the time, were them DJs, were they still coming up, or were they like at the peak?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing was, it's like he said, and we're going to go for 22 hours every Sunday. And I said, what? And he's like, yeah, he goes, we're going to start at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. And he says, and we're going to go, oh, hang on, no. It would, well, no, 24 hours, I think it was. So, yeah, so basically you put enough DJs on to go for 24 hours on the terrace and inside. But, I mean, obviously the terrace would have to close at midnight because with the sound regulations and stuff being like they are. And so, yeah, did the summer there. And then I think I ended up doing like 17 years at Space.
Wow.
Every Sunday. I mean, if you go on, I always wind up Carl Cox with this because, you know, Carl's played there a lot of times. But on Resident Visor, there's a chart on how the DJs that have played there the most, and I'm number 1 and Coxie's number 2.
Wow, some list to be on that.
Yeah, so I always give it to him like, you know, I'm still number 1. And he laughs his head off as well. He laughs his head off. He loves a good laugh.
So the relationship that you build with the DJs, how was that back then? Getting introduced to the likes of Carl Cox and Sasha and all that.
Well, that was the thing, because like I knew Carl Cox. Like I got to know him once. He came to, because he used to play for Cream a lot before he started his own night at Space. You know, and you know, you had the odd conversation here and there, and then he'd come down to Mambo and I'd have a drink with him, and then on New Year's Eve 1999 for the Millennium, we played together on Bondi Beach to 20,000 people.
Wow.
You know, he played the midnight slot because he had to get on a plane to fly to Honolulu to see the New Year in twice.
Oh my God! So
he had all the so he had all the BBC cameras with him and all the Radio 1 people, so he played at Bondi Beach on the Millennium, and then he got on a plane, and by the time he got to Honolulu, they were just seeing in the New Year there.
Wow.
And so I played after him, and then from then on, it was like there was something in a magazine. He wrote something about me, like saying, oh, he loves listening to me on the terrace or something like that. And then I got a gig in Southport, and I didn't know Paul Reynolds, and that's when I met him. And I remember getting on the train from London up there, and he was like, "How are you? Come with me, have that." And he took me to I'm trying to remember the Club On or something like that. Bar Non, that's it, yeah. And so I gets there and I see the poster and it says Jason Byer, Carl Cox's favourite DJ. I'm like, what are you doing to me, man? What are you doing?
So for anyone who doesn't know, Paul Reynolds, he's another Ibiza resident, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah.
And I remember I don't know if it was back at his house or afterwards, but I just remember standing there with my arms out like that, going, "Play Seal again." What's the track? Seal. We're never going to survive unless get a little crazy. And I was like, just play it again, and just over and over again off me knackers. And then they put me on the train and sent me back to London. I was like, wow. And then, but yeah, it's the relationship I get with a lot of them was mental, really, because like Alex P and Brandon Block, I heard of them before I started DJing. I mean, they were big time in London and in Ibiza, doing the black and white parties at S Paradise and the Mad Monday parties at Pasha. And they were really approachable. They were so cool. I mean, Blocko used to call me Hassan, because in Spain they pronounce the J's like a her. So he's like, Hassan, come here, do this, do that. And trying to control Alex and Brandon in the DJ box at Mambo, because they were there every single day. In my first year of being resident there, Brandon and Alex were there all the time. I mean, Alex had a bag of sandals in the DJ box, right? And so he used to come in and he'd go, what sandals are we going to wear today? And all that. So they pick their sandals up. Then they go and sit on the beach. Little did I know, they also kept something else in that bag of sandals. And I didn't know I was looking after them, to be honest. But I was like, yeah, they're just Alex and Brandon sandals in a bag. I mean, I was so naive.
Yeah.
And and I learned a lot from them too, and how to, take, because with any industry you get into, there's always a bit of banter, and it's, if you're new, you're always going to get it in the ear roll. And I used to get it in the ear roll from them all the time, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
It was just, I got Alex and Brandon taking the mick out of me. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So whenever we come over, and obviously me and Tom, we're always in Ibiza, and we've seen you at Cafe Mambo loads, and you always seem to still have a close relationship with all the biggest DJs,
Yeah, when
Pete
the guests come in and
Fatboy Slim and all them.
Yeah, it's mental because, I think sometimes some of the bigger ones, like Fatboy and all that, they might think, oh, who's this geezer? But they know who I am. It's just, they might not know, you might not know my name or whatever. And then, but, most do. And I mean, and it's, even like, you would think it was just all the old school DJs, but it's not, like people like Bontan, Andy, and he's what a sound guy. Do you know what I mean? We did a couple of gigs together and all that. And, and it just so refreshing to hear, well, he's not new. He's been around a while now, but, just to, he knows how to have a laugh. We did New Year's Eve in Jersey a few years ago, and we had a right crack.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hilarious. And then you got like, Eats Everything, Dan.
Yeah.
He was like, I remember like I was doing a pre-party with Pete Tong in Mambo one Friday, and he dropped Eats Everything's the entrance song for the first time. Yeah, well, and I turned around, I was like, what is this, man? And he was like, oh, it's Eats Everything. And I thought, oh yeah, I've heard of him. It's Dan Pierce or something like that. So then the following week, Pete goes to me, he's like, oh yeah, he wants your email and all that. There's some tracks he's after or something. And then we met up in space and that, and we had a good laugh. And yeah, it just sound geezer, do you know what I mean? Really good laugh and a brilliant DJ.
I suppose there's no better place to do some networking than at Cafe Mambo.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, if you can't network there, then you can't do it anywhere. I mean, it's such a great place to be for that, especially in the old days more because, it was a little bit, I wouldn't say exclusive, but, you don't get the crowd, you didn't get the crowds like you get now.
It's chocker 7 nights a week now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's chocker-block. It's chocker-block at sunset. Just every single table's booked out, and you got a couple of thousand people sitting on the beach. Yeah. As well on the rocks.
One thing I've always noticed with your sets, if you're doing the sunset, you always pick a tune and you time it to the exact second that track finishes.
Yeah, it was a trick Pete Gooding taught me. And I mean, it's a really easy trick, really, because I remember in the old days, a woman called Sue Bennison used to come in and, and she'd be like, right, I've printed off all the sunset times for you and all that. And it was like, oh, cheers, Sue, and all that. And I never really took much notice of it. I mean, I used to let's get the rough guide and I used to just wing it. And it was like, and sometimes it's like, if the sun's going down too quick, you're pitching the record up, you know, to make it go quicker.
Yeah.
And then, so then Pete Gooding, who was also a Mambo resident, he basically took over my sets when I first went on to Amnesia, and he'd done a great job in Mambo. I mean, he was been there for a long time. And he said to me, he says, when the sun comes down, he says, when it hits the horizon, you got 3 minutes on the dot. And I thought, well, that's easy. Like that. So then I started looking for all these 3-minute records, right? And then I thought, well, no, why don't I play like a 5-minute record, but time it 2 minutes before it, and then it just became a hit. You know what I mean? It's like,
just do it.
I'd be like sitting there studying it. And even if I weren't at work, cause where I used to live, I used to catch sunset there. I'd be like playing it there and practicing the sunset. You know, something, you know, because the thing is, it's like, you get it wrong, and like the music finishes and you're just standing there. It's like, it's like trying to, I mean, it did make it better later on. You know, because I used to do it on vinyl, so you didn't have a clue how many minutes you had really.
Yeah.
You know, you should just look at it and go, all right, yeah, that's nearly there. But obviously, when the CDJs came in, and you know, and you got the clocks on them, and you can see how much you got left, it's made it a lot easier. But yeah, my search for 3-minute records was just like incredible. I just looked for as many 3-minute records as I could that have got a dramatic ending. Yeah. And some of the ones I found is incredible.
Yeah, there's been some boss tunes played there over the years. I remember, if we go back to 2012 when me and Dom were doing the summers, and I used to be based down there, if you remember, selling the tickets for Pasha.
You was in the DJ box more than you was outside. You used to come up.
Yeah. And, you know, there'd be times when I'd be stood there, and when the right track's played at the right time and that sun goes down, it can near get emotional.
It's emotional, that, yeah.
You know what? You knew the name of the records before I even did. You come over and go, is this such and such? I go, hang on, let me have a look. Oh, yeah, it is. Do you know that one?
Tom was a tune spotter.
I just said, because the thing is I still, for some reason, it's like when they used to play on vinyl, you know, every cover was different. Yeah. And like sometimes I didn't even read it. It was just I knew what the cover was. And then obviously now you can have the covers, they come up on the screen on that as well. So and so a lot of the tracks, I've named them things that they're not even really called. You know, like I've got it somewhere and I didn't know what it was. And you know, it's different now with when you're buying stuff online, because you know it's all catalogued and that. But I've still got a load of old stuff that I pull out CDs now and I haven't got a clue what the track is. They're not on Shazam or anything. You're just like, well, did I make it? I'm like, I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Did I make this record? I don't know if I did.
Out of all of the different DJs that have played there, who would be your dream back to back to play with?
I think for obvious reasons that he's not here anymore. Probably Frankie Knuckles. You know, he just understood, you know, what was what, and you know, you could put him anywhere and he knew exactly what to play, and he was such a gentleman as well, you know. Just, you know, it was funny because in the old days the DJ box, you used to have to climb under the DJ box to get into the DJ box at Mambo, and poor old Frankie used to get down, he'd be like, hang on man, and if you go under the thing we'd have to like pull it through the other side like that, and he'd be like, woo, baby, and all that, and then like on he'd go. And then so Javi was like, we can't do this anymore. He says, put a gate there like that. So in the winter they came in and they put hinges on. They put all new wooden, you know, like at the side in the DJ box. So every time Frankie came down, we just lifted it up like that.
Yeah.
And I keep saying to Javi, I said, we need to put a plaque on it to say that this was built, you know, for Frankie Knuckles.
Yeah.
So every time a DJ comes in, at least they'll know his name.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I was going to ask you, Jay, you play at High, which it was space, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think about the club that is now compared to what it was?
Oh, it's completely different. Yeah. Completely different. High is you know, as modern and as streamlined as you can get. It's, you know, you go in there and it's a proper streamlined experience. You know, it's like, it's not confusing.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Like,
yeah, you know, like, whereas, you know, with space, it was, I would say, a little bit more wilder, if I could say, you know, because just well, because things change as well. But I mean, you know, Hire's done a great job. I mean, it's completely sold out more or less every single night, and they do a really good array of different parties. And
obviously, there's the toilets in High as well.
Yeah, the wild corner, the toilets, the WC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never even been in there. You know, I'd never even been into High until I actually played there. Well, it wasn't last season, obviously the season before. And Leslie Tapman, who's the manager or the boss there, she said, let's go for a meeting. And she said, look, she goes, what do you think about playing every Friday night in the toilets at High? She goes, you know, you play all night. You can have whoever you like come in and play with you. And yeah, she goes, I think you'll enjoy it. So then Glitterbox got onto me, George got onto me, and he said, do you fancy doing, I think it was the opening for Glitterbox or the following week. Do you want to do the toilets for us? And I said, yeah. I said, cool. So what happened is before I started doing my Friday residency for the club, I actually had the chance to go and play there and see what it was like. And I went into Glitterbox, and I went into the toilet, and it was just packed in there at midnight. And DJ Pippi was playing, and I just couldn't wait to get on. I just hadn't felt like that in years. You know,
it's a full-blown club in the toilet, isn't it? In High for it. I'm sure we talked about this on the last one.
Yeah, basically, it's like your DJ box is in the middle of this rectangular room. You've got cubicles all up and down either side of you. I'm telling you though, man, if you get in there early, there's always someone comes in and drops one off, man.
Yeah. Stinks it out.
I'm telling you, I had to start taking my aftershave with me because it was like especially because I had Bongo Ben playing with me and all that. I'm like, is that you? He's like, it's not me, mate. Like that. And then all of a sudden you see someone walk out of the cubicle, the head down like that.
It's an amazing atmosphere in there, though, isn't it?
But fair to this to him, the cleaner is brilliant. She's straight over there and all that. Bro. I mean, she was wearing masks before we was all wearing masks. I'm telling you. And yeah, and then the funny thing was, so like, I was buzzing. I mean, I drank a lot of beer as well because I've been standing out in the courtyard and that, and I've just been drinking, and people were trying to talk to me. I remember Katie being there, my missus and that, and I just couldn't think straight. I thought, I've got to get on, I've got to play. So I'm standing there. And I went in there and got on, and the gaff was going off. It was just every single record I played, they were bouncing off the cubicle doors, basically. The lights in there are incredible, you know. It's like the Saturday Night Fever dance floor lights, but on the ceiling.
Yeah. And
it's just going mental. And then like, then I blacked out, and I woke up on my bed, right? And I looked down, and I still got my trainers on and everything, all my clothes on, and I was like, oh no. I thought, my big chance, and I've mucked it up. I thought, what have I done? I don't even remember leaving there and all that. So then, like, Rattan would have drove me home. Like, Rattan's a guy who lives on the island, drives everyone. And so I thought, right, I'll get onto him like that. And I text him, I'm like, what happened? And he just, like, laughing. And I'm like, what? He goes, oh, you was hilarious. I said, why? And then he goes, well, go on Instagram now. And I went on Instagram, and it was just video of me just fucking... But and then Simon Dunmore was like, brilliant set and all that, and I was like, oh, thank fuck for that. Because I thought the next call I'm going to get is from Leslie Tapman, you know, saying, well, we saw you in there the other night and we might have changed our minds, you know. But there was one video that someone took, and it just said it was just over like thousands and thousands and thousands of views and all that. And I just thought, I don't even remember playing that record.
Yeah.
And I love playing in there and you know, and just to play, you know, like sometimes at the end of the night, I'd play like Boney M, Ma Baker, and it still would go off. You know, and I was playing La Bamba. Because all the Spanish in there, they were singing along to it and all that. And then one week, Idris Elba came in because he plays in the other room. He's like, let me play and all that. I'm like, yeah. I said, no, I'll be in your next Bond film then, shall I? Oh, he's not Bond yet, is he? He's not Bond yet.
Not yet.
Jason, what's your favourite gig that you've ever done, whether it be at Ibiza or most memorable?
I remember the first birthday party for Home Nightclub in Sydney. It would have been around February 2000, something like that, January 2000. And Jeremy Healy was the guest, and it was just going to be me and him all night. And then Darren Hughes flew over for it as well. And I remember the atmosphere in the club. Before I was warming up for Healy, he was going to come on about 4 o'clock or something. So I was doing like 11 till 4. And, and I just thought, well, what normally I would do is I would hold back. I would hold back from what I want to play because, Jeremy's coming on. I don't want to try and, have the crowd go off too much. So I turned around to Darren Hughes and I was like, what shall I do? He said, smash it, kid. He said, just go for it. I was like, really? He said, they're here to see you as well, mate. I'm like, all right. So then I remember like just smashing the life out of it and like playing this track called TUB. It was like this Belgium techno record that just used to go off all the time. And I remember as I was playing it, I was a little bit worried about playing it because I thought Darren might be like, that's a bit heavy, kid, or something like that. So as I'm playing it, the place is actually going berserk. I mean, like the Aussie crowd are so loud. I mean, they're screaming. And I can feel someone pinching me calf muscle. And I'm like, hey, what's doing that? And I turn around and Darren Hughes is on the floor going, yes, kid, yes, kidder, yes, kidder, like that. And I'm like, and I was just buzzing. And it was just like, for me, Darren Hughes is the best promoter in the world. Him and James Barton, Cream, you don't get any more famous as a nightclub. Maybe Ministry of Sound. But, and they are probably the most 2 famous club brands in the world. And so, like, to have the person who created that and, and brought so many DJs into where they've come, it's unbelievable to have that backing from someone like that.
Yeah.
So that was a really, really good party. Yeah, really good. And I would say some of the nights in Mambo in the early days when it used to like rain in September. And everyone used to come in the bar and we'd shut all the doors and no one would leave because, there'd be blizzard outside. Yeah. And we'd close the windows. And back then, the windows on the DJ box were wooden. So once you closed them, that was it. You were shut in. And we used to have some brilliant parties then. And, yeah, I mean, I can remember loads of Amnesia playing on the terrace, just like incredible as well. And then also... I did one in Pasha in Buenos Aires in Argentina around 2000, 2001. And I was there on my own and I went to the club and I played this track by an artist called Simon, where it goes right down into a big breakdown. So I skipped out to have a Jimmy to go to the toilet. And then when I come back to the DJ box, the whole club was crouched on the floor. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? I've like insulted them or something. And the light controller was said, no, there's respect for you. They love you and all that. And I'd never seen this before. Like I sit down and then as the track came back up, they just kicked off. And I mean, the Argentinians, they know how to party, man. Yeah. And the gaff went off. I mean, the shivers I got from that. And then I spoke to the promoter afterwards and he was great and all that. And then I remember coming back to Ibiza like a couple of days after to play at Space or something, and I was up at Sacapaya having dinner, and what's his name from Renaissance was there, Jeff Oakes, and he was like, "Where you been?" I said, "I've just come back from Pasha, Buenos Aires." He goes, "Did they sit down for you?" I said, "Yeah, they did." And he said, "Yeah, he said Sasha invented that." He said the first time they ever did it was when Sasha was playing down there.
No way.
So for a little while after that, you didn't really see much sit down still. And I used to be like, yeah, only me and Sasha get sit downs, like this and that. Yeah. And it was like quite, and whereas now, they're like 10 to a penny, aren't they?
Yeah. Jay, would there be any information you'd give to someone who was, thinking about getting into DJing? Because a lot of the time now, what we see, me and Tom, like, people only want to play the main set. They want to come in and bang it and just get off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I'd say is if you're a resident DJ, right, you're just another staff member. You're as important as the man on the till or the girl on the till. You're as important as the PR outside. The thing is, you need to set an atmosphere. Without that atmosphere, a club's not going to work. It's not up to the guests to come in and create that atmosphere that you'd be doing, because the reason you book that DJ is because of the music they play and you know they'll suit in that club. So the thing is, you really got to be patient. Your day will come when you'll be the guest and you can come in, you can go, right, this is my spot. I mean, you got to want to do it for the love of music. You know, it's like you don't want to be doing it because you want X amount of followers on Instagram.
That's it, DJs,
you don't want to be doing it. You don't want to be doing it so, you know, you can hang out in the DJ box with, you know, Villa Lobos or something like that. You don't want to be doing it to get women. I mean, it's a nice thing to have, to be able to get women when you're a DJ. But I mean, when I got into it, right, I didn't do it for the drugs. I didn't do it for definitely didn't do it for the money. I just did it because I wanted to be in control of that atmosphere. I wanted to be, it made me feel really good to be able to control an atmosphere. Yeah. And then, you know, then I'd see other DJs come in and they'd be like, big track after big track after big track. And it used to annoy me because I'd be like, you know, you can get this atmosphere without having to do that. You know, you just got to know your tunes. And that's when, you know, DJs don't know their tunes. They play the big hits all the time.
I think it's brilliant playing a warm-up set. It's probably my favourite set.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
No, yeah, I used to love it at Amnesia all the time. You know, it's like warming up for Van Elden, you know. It's like, what more could you want? And it was like, and I really didn't want to upstage him or nothing. He came on, he loved it. And, you know, I still see him now and he still gives me a nod. We say hello and all that. Yeah. And, you know, and it's the same with a lot of the DJs, you know. And then, like, there'd be occasional times when, you know, there'd be no shows with a guest. Like one week, Paul Oakenfold didn't make it and he was supposed to be closing the main room at Amnesia. And they said, like, right, jump on, Jay. But they know they could tell me to jump on because they know what I'm doing. Yeah. You know, they don't think I'm going to go on and embarrass the brand by like going cheese. They know I'm going to go on and give, you know, and when that song comes up, you know, then I'll pull out Gat Decor Passion or something like that, you know, and then that makes everybody go even twice as mental.
Yeah.
Doing the likes of the daytime stuff in Mambo, I'm guessing, you know, as you said earlier, you were on from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I only really know Mambo in its kind of more, I'd say, more recent years, when it was kind of, the DJ would start from, I don't know, when was it, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock ish? Yeah.
I in the old days we used to do, the shifts were 2 till 8 and then 8 till 2, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
The first obviously couple of hours before the sunset, it's a lot more chill out and Balearic and, you know, listen to the music that you used to play down there, like Nightmares on Wax and all that kind of stuff. It's nice, all stuff like that. Love the opportunity to do something like that. It keep it interesting.
Yeah, but the good thing that I've been doing recently as well is finding a lot of 12-inch mixes of 80s tracks, you know, and instrumentals and stuff like that. I mean, if you listen to you know, for example, Kajagoogoo, you know, Too Shy. But there's an instrumental version of it that Danny Gould from Clockwork Orange gave me. And, you know, it's just an amazing bass line with wicked strings going through it. And it just goes on for like 9 or 10 minutes or something. Yeah. And, you know, and people are sitting there and they sort of know they know it, but they're just happy to sit there knowing that it feels good, you know, to listen to stuff like that. Yeah, and I've done that with a lot of stuff, with a lot of 80s stuff. But also, you know, James Brown stuff as well for the afternoons, you know, like when I used to play at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd have like a barbecue going on the terrace. You know, we'd play, you know, loads of soul and funk, you know, Luther Vandross and from Change and you know, and somebody, you know, tracks like Somebody Else's Guy and, you know, Gwen McRae, Giving All My Love. And then we'd play a lot of reggae stuff as well sometimes. And, you know, and it was nice to change it around each day because you couldn't go in there and just, you know, I mean, I have seen some DJs go in there and play the same records every day, but I mean, they're not playing in there anymore.
Mustn't be enjoyable, like.
They're not, they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's also, it's just, you know, I love playing in Mambo because I can play the music I like, and it's just, I'm just lucky that it fits the bar.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd never go in there and I never play a record just for the sake of playing it if I don't like it.
Yeah.
Or if I've had enough of it. I've heard that a bit too much recently, you know, like maybe if it's still an old track, but, you know, I might start listening to different albums again that I haven't heard in a while. And then, you fall in love and fall out of love with them at different times. But, you know, when you hear them again after a while, they just sound amazing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just while we're aware on the time approaching the hour, just wanted to ask about...
That's gone quick.
It's all right to go as quick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just with your music, obviously you've got your own label. Are you doing much with that at all at the moment, or...?
Well, at the moment, yeah, I'm just compiling the back catalogue because I didn't really realise how many tracks I'd made, and I think I'm up to, on that label, on the Playmore Terry's label, I'm up to like 40 tracks that I've made, and there's some stuff in there, bootlegs and stuff like that. So I'm just putting them out on back catalogues, 10 tracks in each back catalogue.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get busy in the studio. It's a little bit difficult at the moment because without going out and listening to other DJs, it gets a bit tricky.
Yeah, we've been.
What the good thing is I've been picking the guitar up again, and just playing that because I used to play it quite a lot, and I find that helps because it gets me motivated in the brain with it. Playing FIFA on PS3 as well, that helps. That gets me going as well. It does. It's like I have 2 or 3 games of FIFA, and I'm like, I've got to make a tune. I feel guilty for playing FIFA.
I'm sure we could probably carry on all day, but as Tom said, we're just approaching the hour, so we're going to finish off with some quick fire questions for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, Apple Music or Spotify?
I don't use it either. None either, honestly.
No worries. Vinyl or CDJs?
Vinyl.
Yeah.
City break or beach holiday?
City break.
Cycling or running?
Walking.
Club or festival?
Club.
Yeah. I think we know what the answer to this one's going to be. Ibiza or Croatia?
I've never been to Croatia.
High or space?
Both.
Good answer.
Yeah.
DC-10 or Amnesia?
Amnesia all day long.
Yeah.
And lastly, day or night party?
Day parties.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Day parties are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the more I got older, the more I just wanted to DJ in the daytime.
Brilliant. Well, Jay, we've hit our hour mark now, just about.
Okay,
so
bro.
Thank you very much for coming on and talking to us today.
It's been really interesting. Thanks so much for coming on.
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I mean, I know I hardly let you get a word in anyways. Really, I'm just going on and on and on.
That's good. We've enjoyed it. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do it again. Definitely.
Hopefully, we'll see you this summer at Mambo.
Well, maybe maybe when you're over, we could do one We can do one at the Mambo studio.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It'd be a good laugh.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks again, mate.
Get messy.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Right, thanks, Jay.
Cheers. Take it easy, boys.
Speak to you soon.
Take care.
See you later,
Bye-bye.
mate.
Big love.
Ta-ra.
Ta-ra, mate.